very much for inviting me to present IGAD and discuss with you on behalf of the IGAD interest group and on behalf also of its co-chairs. I have to apologize first for my English. Don't hesitate to ask me to repeat if you can't understand what I'm explaining.
Don't worry, you're fine.
Okay. So I'm working for INRA. I don't know if everyone knows INRA. It's the French National Institute for Agricultural Research. And I'm head of unit in the Department of Scientific and Technical Information. So I'm not an agronomist. I'm not a thematic on the thematic side. So, and I'm co-chairing the IGAD working interest group with 3 other persons. I will present these persons later. So, as IGAD is an interest group in the frame of RDA, the Research Data Alliance, I thought that it would be interesting to start by presenting RDA, but maybe you all know about it.
I don't think so. We haven't really ever had a presentation on the RDA, so I do think it would be useful to get an overview so we can understand the better connections.
I agree, and many of us have our microphones muted, so sometimes it takes us a second to unmute them, and so if you don't hear anything, just give it a second. Okay. So RDA is an international member-based organization. And the aim is to bring together researchers and innovators in order to build social and technical bridges to open and share research data across disciplines, countries, and technologies. So some numbers. Currently, RDA has about 7,000 individual members and 43 organizational members and 8 affiliate members. There are currently 91 groups working on the data issues, including 33 working groups and 58 interest groups. So maybe I should explain the difference between these 2 types of groups in RDA. The working groups are short-term groups. They have 18 months to develop and implement data infrastructure. That means tools, policy, practices, and products that can be adopted by projects, users, organizations, or communities. And the interest groups are open-ended in terms of longevity, and the focus on a specific problem related to data and try to identify which kind of infrastructure needs to be built. And depending on the interest groups, some can set up some working groups in order to tackle some specific species of work they have identified as useful for the specific focus. So IGAD is an interest group. So it's one of the 58 interest groups of RDA. Well, what does RDA do? As I said, RDA aims to build some frameworks to
open and share data. And it is through the working groups or the interest groups that these frameworks are built. So the members can come together, self-form a group, and choose to focus on a specific problem in order to develop something, or they can also, in the frame of the interest groups, choose to just explore and discover some problems and potential solutions, and try to identify which one can be tackled through working groups. But many interest groups are just some fora for discussion and exploring some questions. So currently, these are some examples of subjects that are addressed in the frame of RDA. So data reproducibility, science reproducibility in data preservation, best practices for domain repositories, etc. So who can join RDA? Joining RDA is open to everyone. It's free, and it's based on individual decision, but organizations also can join RDA as organization. So for the individual membership, you just need to register through the RDA website and accept the guiding principle of RDA. There are many types of interest groups and working groups. So one of them is the groups, the domain-specific group. So here I put the list of domain-focused working groups and interest groups, and among them you have AgBioData, and I will show you later that many of the working groups that are highlighted here are also under the umbrella of AgBioData. So AgBioData itself, as I said, it's a domain-oriented interest group. It started in 2013. Currently, there are 170 members. It's also currently one of the most prominent thematic groups of RDA. So we are 4 co-chairs. Patricia Belton from Brazil, Embrapa. Armando Stella from University of Rome, Ima from FAO, and myself. So I try to categorize the types of actions we are doing through AgBioData. Generally speaking, we are open to cover all issues that are related to agriculture. And we also aim to represent the stakeholders in managing data for agricultural research and innovation. It includes data producing, data aggregation, and data consuming. AgBioData is also a kind of forum for sharing experiences and providing visibility to research and work in agricultural data. And as I said, it's also an umbrella for many working groups, and each of them has its own tangible goals. So currently we have 7 working groups within IGAD. The last one, the soil data group, is not yet an official RDA group. The other ones are officially RDA working groups. So they went through the process of endorsement by RDA. The WIC Data Interoperability Working Group and the WISE Data Interoperability Working Group are working on a common interoperability framework, and it means for us providing guidelines to describe, represent, and link with or WISE related data. So for example, for the WIT group, we came with a set of recommendations for WIT related data, and the recommendations are related both to data sharing formats, ontologies that can be used to describe or to annotate data, and also metadata standards. The agri-semantics working group is gathering some community-based requirements and use cases in order to build an infrastructure that will support appropriate use of semantics for data interoperability in agriculture in general. And the on-farm data working group aims to develop a farmer network of guidelines for data handling, sharing, and use. It's quite short as objective, but you can find more information on the website of RDA. So the chairs of these groups, as you can see, are from many organizations and many countries. So it's really, as I said, a place where we try to connect people, organizations, and to tackle many challenges related to data in agriculture. So one important mission is of IGAD is connecting people and organizations. Even if IGAD was created within the frame of RDA, its impact really goes beyond the RDA framework. We have members from America, North and South. We have members from Africa, Europe, Asia, and Oceania. So a quite relevant representation from the global South, for example, which is not the case in RDA, globally speaking. So we are building this community a lot through some pre-meetings we have established, 2 days pre-meetings. They are prior to the plenaries, the RDA plenaries, and we try to organize these pre-meetings with local organizations. And so far, we have organized 5 of them, and each of them gathered between 80 and 100 participants. Another important goal of IGAD is to engage with the research community, both the communities that are represented within RDA and those who are not represented within RDA. And for example, for the WIT data interoperability working group, at the moment we started this group, the WIT community was not represented in the in RDA. The data types we focused on, which are genetic and phenotypic data, were not really represented in RDA, but we managed to bring this community around the table and to work on a set of recommendations, and yeah, it worked well, and it was really a good success. And this success is also due to the fact that the community we relied on was already structured and vivid. It was represented by the WIC initiative, and we could have a good support from this WIC initiative, which is well recognized by the WIC community. So we try also to engage with communities that are more technical. Within RDA, we have many technical-oriented groups, and we have also, as I show you previously, many domain-oriented groups. And we try to look at what is done by the other groups in order to see how we can adapt the outputs for the R community and not reinvent the wheel. So in terms of funding, IGAD is currently supported mainly by GODAN, the Global Open Data for Agriculture and Nutrition, and FAO. So we are getting two types of support from them. Funding to cover the logistics when we organize the pre-meetings, and also funding to bring participants from the Global South. But the working groups also need to be supported, to be funded, because it's difficult to produce valuable outputs only through remote meetings. And it's really important to have a sponsor behind each working group. And we really could observe that because the working groups we had until now, between them we have the ones who are supported by a sponsor and the ones who are not. And we can clearly see the difference between the two. It's very important to have a sponsor. In terms of membership, we have 170 members, but they are not engaged in the same way. There are different levels of engagement. It depends a lot on the institutions where the participants come from, and also it depends on the interests of the participants, of course. We have also observed a lot of growing interest from the Global South, and
more people are engaging, but some of the coming from the global south are co-chairing the working groups, it could sometimes be difficult to overcome some logistics issues and achieve the results of the working group on time. As I said, the working groups are short-term working groups. They are meant to deliver after 18 months. It's really short, and yeah, we really need to be able to work in an efficient way. I think the key stakeholders are represented in IGAD, but still we need to continue to bring more people and to promote also the outputs in order to engage more and more with more and more national, regional, and international organizations. The recommendations that are produced by working groups under the umbrella of IGAD are considered as RDA recommendations. They are endorsed or not by RDA, but ideally endorsed by RDA. And as such, they can take the form of technical specification, code, policies, or practices, or just harmonization of standards or reference models. You can follow this link here to see this paper that we published last year to present the results of the with data interoperability working group. The adoption of the recommendations is low, and we still don't know very well how to measure it. So this is something we are working on. And since the beginning of this year, we have a new working group which is endorsed by RDA, and which is the Capacity Development Working Group. And this working group will support IGAD and its working groups in order to promote the outputs we are building. So we will work this year. This working group will work with the with data working group, who has already some outputs, and explore blending learning and e-learning methods during this year. So the next pre-meeting of the interest group will be in Botswana in November, before the International Data Week, which is co-organized by ICSU, AgBioData, and the Academy of Science of South Africa. So if you are around, you are invited to come to our pre-meeting. That's all.
Thank you. That was great. So wait, the pre-meeting is before another meeting?
Sorry?
Is that a pre-meeting you were talking about in Botswana, or a... Oh, team meeting. You said team meeting.
No, the pre-meeting, not a team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the pre-meeting.
pre-meeting before what? Does that mean it's before another meeting?
Before the RDA plenary.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Esther. This was really great. If anybody has questions, please unmute and pipe in. I had a question, well, a couple, and one was about funding. So you touched some on that earlier, but RDA is a huge organization, and it seems like you have a lot going on. So, do the working groups within RDA, for example, the wheat interoperability one? Do they go out and pursue other funding to supplement what happens within RDA to keep going and to keep their working group on track for the 18 months, or are most of them unfunded and just based on volunteer work?
The wheat data working group is funded by the Wheat Initiative. So this is not the case for all the working groups. For example, the rice working group is struggling to get funding because RDA as such is not providing any funding. So we are trying to get funding from the community of interest.
Okay, so success of the group kind of correlates with the level of outside funding that you get.
Somehow, yes.
Yeah, okay. I was also interested, so you mentioned that some of the working groups had developed recommendations, and so what the AgBioData group has been doing in the past year is to develop a white paper with specific recommendations on how to handle data and database management for genomic and genetic and breeding data in agriculture. And so we're kind of at a point too where we're going to show our recommendations to the wide world, but you made the great point about how do you measure whether or not these recommendations are being adopted by the community. So you're still very much in the beginning stages of figuring that out. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay. I think we could really benefit from hearing if your working groups figure that out, and we could try and see what you're doing and see if we could implement similar strategies.
Okay.
Esther, this is Dory here. I was wondering then, what opportunities are there for AgBioData to kind of join this consortium at RDA? Because I think you guys have a lot of experience and we also have a lot of experience, and it would be good if we could certainly collaborate on some of this.
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing we could do would be to invite you to participate in the pre-meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We will have the next one in Botswana. It's quite far, but after this one, the next will be in USA.
Oh,
so yeah, I think
wonderful.
In Philadelphia, or yeah. So it could be interesting to think ahead how we could meet there and discuss and see how we can collaborate.
that would be great. We would have some funds to be able to send some people from the group to at least to the US meeting. Not sure about the Botswana one, but the US one. Do you know when that's going to be, the US one, roughly? The Philadelphia.
Sorry?
Do you know what month that would be? Would it be next year the Philadelphia meeting would be?
It will be around March because it's each 6 months. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, That's great, and perhaps we could consider. So I don't know if there are other use cases of larger consortia just joining into RDA's group, and if everybody just joins, or if it's typical that the group designates 1 or 2 representatives that would then go to these meetings and give feedback to the AgBioData group. Are there some models for that so far?
Yeah, the CoData, for example. Do you know about CoData?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think they joined as a consortium, and they are involved. They have groups within the umbrella, but they are also involved in other groups. So.
Okay, we could look
into that.
I'm not
sure I really answered your question.
No, that's good. So we could look to them as kind of an example. And I see Clément put something in the chat that there are a couple of us. Oh, sorry, is that Clément?
Yeah, no. I was about to read that. Thanks, Clément speaking. Thanks, Esther, for the presentation, and hi. I just wanted to there is indeed a couple of us that have been involved for a few years, Laurel and Marie-Angélique, in the WID data interoperability working group that Esther was also kind of leading, that were involved. And more recently, I've been also following closely the agri-semantics working group that is part of the IGAD interest group, with the work we are doing with AgroPortal and everything related to semantics and agriculture. So there are some point of interaction already, but it's true that the core AgBioData community working group didn't know much about the IGAD meeting. Although I actually met we were there. I met Ramona at the plenary meeting in Berlin, so I guess she's also aware of the RDA working groups and probably IGAD and things like that.
Thank you, Clément.
Like wheat and rice, do you know of any group working on legumes or pulse crops?
I didn't really get your question. Your question is there any group working on crops?
Pulse crops, like legumes. Yeah.
Oh.
Pigeon pea, chickpeas.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right, thank you.
But there is an interest within IGAD on exploring other crops related data, basing on what has been done in the wheat data interoperability working group. But
yes,
until now, there is nothing.
One of the keynote in Berlin was given by one of the talk in plenary session was given by someone from the rice interoperability working group that is kind of also more recent, and those guys are going to be interested specifically in like rice aspect. And that rice working group is also co-led by Pierre Larmande, who's also kind of following a little bit also what's going on or what's happening on the AgBioData related to the work he's doing on rice genomics and phenotyping.
Okay, great. Are there any more questions?
I guess if we joined as a group, how would we participate and contribute? Or I'm just in my mind thinking about that, how it would work. More of a discussion thing.
if you join RDA or IGAD as a group?
Our IGAD as a group.
Oh.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, IGAD is a forum to explore interesting questions and think about possible solutions. And when needed, we try to set up a working group to produce something tangible. So that's globally the way we work.
Mm-hmm.
So if AgBioData has some interesting questions to bring, and if it's useful to set up a working group or many working groups around these questions, this is something feasible and something we will support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's interesting to bring some solutions. RDA is not the only how to say way to demonstrate or to build solutions, but when RDA endorse your solutions and your products or your recommendations, it can bring more visibility to them and maybe reach more communities.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. I was going to ask, so Clément and Laurel, it looks like you're both on the call, and you both apparently have one foot in IGAD or RDA and one foot in AgBioData, so you kind of know what's common and maybe what might not be there at IGAD or RDA. Can you guys comment? Can you think of a way that would be useful for us to participate? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, yeah, it's okay. Just maybe Laurel will complete after that. I mean, first of all, I mean, the things that the groups have in common is that they are, I want to say, working group networks, putting people with different perspectives and similar objectives in common. So for this, it makes really sense. RDA is not only a structure being supported by Europe. RDA is really some kind of worldwide, being strongly supported also by the US. So it makes sense to be sure the initiative that probably originally took more body or more importance in Europe will be followed there. I mean, I'm not an active member of the. I mean, I'm one of the active leader, kind of proposing steps forwards and organizing the meetings and all of that. Thanks, we have people like Esther, Ima, and all of these people are doing these kind of things. But I think we need those environments where people can actually meet. The last IGAD meeting in Berlin was really useful, and we have to meet different people, talk about future projects, collaborations, what are the status of exchange between different actors and things like that. Then there are usually some like small session or parallel sessions where subgroups can talk about different topics they want to continue further, and so suggest them back to the rest of the group and things like that. It's more a forum of exchange, which probably makes sense to have someone representing maybe the core AgBioData database will be relevant. Yeah, that's probably some kind of a first feedback.
Okay, great. Yeah, sounds like that would be a good way to propose. As Dory was saying, to try to see if we can get somebody to, so in addition to people who are already part of RDA, somebody else to get to Philadelphia next March. And Laurel saying she can't do audio right now, so we won't hear from her. Okay. All right, great. Are there any other questions or things to discuss?
Yeah, Laurel is completing on the chat also. She said, good experience to opportunity to see how the standards can be adopted across groups. And thanks,
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's all thank Esther again for giving such a useful presentation, and I think it's a good way to open a door to see if we can start collaborating more with this larger group.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
well,
you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for giving up part of your evening.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.